So now is the time when we're going to take this bakery classifier that we just created and we're going to implement it and actually make a full-fledged app where we can determine, is this thing a bagel or is this thing a donut? Now, something that I'd like to point out that I had talked about a little bit earlier is look at the size of this bakery classifier model that we made. It is 17 kilobytes. Now, this does a whole lot less than other models that we've seen, right? If we go and use some of those other models, right, like you can literally determine between thousands of objects whenever you give it any sort of image, and it will get ballpark where you're looking to be. But in this situation, it's just bagels or donuts, and Apple has done some awesome work to make that so small. Like I said, there's a lot of that building on existing models that they've created in order to get to that point. But regardless, let's go ahead and implement this into a new project. So that means we're going to have to fire up Xcode, and we want to do create a new Xcode project. Now we'll just do iOS single view application. We'll just go ahead and hit next on that. As far as the name for this, I'm going to keep it very straight. I'm just going to call it Doughnut or Bagel. There we go. We don't need core data, unit tests, anything like that. Make sure we have Swift. And with that, go ahead and place it wherever you would like. I'm going to throw mine on the desktop. Okay. So once we've gone ahead and gotten that in place, the next thing that we need to do is bring our model into this project. So we're going to go ahead and go to Finder here, and we're going to move this off to the side. Take this bakery classifier and just simply drag and drop it right here into the project. So make sure we've got this check that's going to be added to our target, but just go ahead and hit finish there. And now, literally, that's all we needed to do to get this bakery model in our project. And you can see this is kind of cool. Remember how I customized all this stuff? License, do whatever you want, description, donut or bagel. That was all just what we created there. But you can see we've got the gist of what's supposed to be happening. You can input an image here, and it's going to output what it thinks this particular thing is and the probability of that particular thing. So now it's just a matter of going ahead and putting this into practice. First, let's work on this visually, how we want this to work. So let's go ahead and move over to our storyboard here. And essentially what we want to do is we want to be able to have the user bring in a photo, or either take a picture of something or bring it in from some existing photos. So first what we're going to do is we're going to take this view controller, and let's go ahead and embed it in a navigation controller. That'll make it so that we can add some bar button items there. So let's go ahead and grab some of those. I'll hit this and get a bar button item. There we go. So we'll put out 2 of these because we need one for the camera, one for existing photos. So let's select one of these, bring back our side menu. We'll have this one be a camera, and this one, if we choose the organize one, that's the folder to me that looks like you're picking an image. And so then what we are going to do is get an image view out here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and search for an image view. Go ahead and bring this out. I'm going to have this go maybe just edge to edge on everything that we've got. Well, not everything. I'm going to do uncheck our constrained margin. We'll go 0, 0, 0. I'm not ready to have it go quite to the bottom, because what I do want to have down here is 2 labels saying, you know, what % chance that it's a donut and what % chance that it's a bagel. So let's go ahead and first go grab a stack view. So I'm going to go grab a stack view. I want a horizontal stack view. So I'm going to go ahead and add this. Let's have it go all the way to the bottom, and then also the left and the right. And I'm going to give it a certain height. Let's maybe give this something like 100. Oops, not 1, we want 100. Great, so we'll go ahead and add that. That's holding this space. Now I'm going to put 2 labels inside of there. So let's go grab some labels and drag one in there, boom, and then we'll drag in another label. Excellent. Now we want to make sure that these labels essentially are showing like what percentage it thinks this is a bagel or a donut. So let's just, put something maybe like a 50%. Oh, I forgot my percentage sign. There we go. And let's do the same thing with this other label, 50%. Great. Now we got to make it so the stack view is, making these distributed equally. So we're going to say fill equally. And we want to make sure that both these labels are centered. So we're going to grab both. I'm going to select both these labels, hold down the control key or the command key to make sure you have both these selected. I'm going to make it so that text is in the middle, and I am going to bump this up to be not only bold, but we're going to make this a lot bigger text. So let's just kind of pump this up. That seems about good. Okay. Next, I want to just add one more stack view on top that just says Doughnut and Bagel there so that we can see what it is that we're working with. So let's go grab another stack view. Let's have this one also be horizontal. So this one we want to be a certain distance from this other stack view. So I might just have to manually drag that there and say that we want some vertical spacing between the two. Ultimately, we want this to be 0, so I'll just go plop that in. Then I'm going to take the stack view that we have, and let's specify here that we want this to go 0 to the left, 0 to the right, and let's give it a height of 30. I think that sounds about right. Okay, now with this in place, we've got to go grab our labels again, put one in there, and we'll throw in another. I love stack views. They make working with layouts so much easier. So great. Again, distribution, fill equally, and then we're going to have to take these two labels, make sure that they go in the center, and let's, we could probably beef them up slightly, but it doesn't need to be huge. But let's grab one of these labels and say this thing is going to be a donut, and this one is going to be a bagel. Great. Now that we have that in place, I'm going to finally finish the bottom part of this image view. I just want to control drag it to the total stack view that we have, so I can't kind of just do that on the visual part. So I might have to go here and just connect that and say I want to have some vertical spacing. And then I'll just select this and go ahead and say 0 on that. And now we'll have a nice big donut or bagel, whatever we have. Now with this, I think it's important. Let's make sure that everything fits inside of here. Let's do aspect fit so that we can see the complete donut, whatever it is, or the bagel, right? Got to keep an open mind there. And let's go ahead and make sure that we're doing clips to bounds so that we don't have anything going over there. I don't think we'd have that issue with aspect fit. That's more of an aspect fill thing, but just in case, we'll go ahead and have that there. Great. So now that this is in place, the next step for us is connecting this to our code. So let's go ahead and do a little split screen here. Okay, and we got to give ourselves some space to work with. We just want to start connecting everything. So let's give some actions for these two buttons here, right? So we're going to call this choose photo tapped. Make sure that this is an action. Okay, choose photo tapped. Go ahead and bring that in. We'll call this one just simply camera tapped. Okay, and I brought that over as an outlet. Okay, so I'm gonna have to delete that and then select this, go to my connections and delete that. Then I'll come back and try this one more time. Do a control drag here, make sure that it's an action, and I'm gonna say camera tapped. Okay, so we've got our two actions. There's really only, those are the two things that can be tapped in this app. Like nothing else is going to respond. We need to have as an outlet, number one, the image view, right? That's a really big deal. So let's go ahead and bring that over. We're going to just call this the image view because it's the only one we have. And then it's really just these two percentage signs. And so we'll bring over one of these, and I'm going to call this donut label. And we'll bring over the other one, and we'll call this one our bagel label. All right, so now that we have all the visual stuff done, it's just about sort of implementing what we need. And I want to go do the camera and folder part of this first, and then we can move over to the machine learning. I know that's what we're primarily here for, is the machine learning, but we've got to take this one step at a time, and it's important that we get this next part ready. So let's go ahead and first create our image picker controller. So I'm just going to call this maybe the picker. We'll call this a UI image picker controller. Okay, great, get that set up. We'll do all of its delegate work here. So we'll say picker.delegate is equal to self, which then means we have to specify that this will be a UI image picker controller delegate. Also needs to be a UI navigation controller delegate. Awesome, got those two in there. Once we have that done, we need to have a way to launch into these, and that's going to be these two actions that we have here. So when the choose photo tapped happens, we got to say our picker dot, and then we've got to specify what it is that we want for the source type. So we're going to say source type here is going to be equal to photo library, and then we'll just say present, and that's where we want to present the view controller, which we have called picker. Animated true, completion nil, and we'll do the same thing for the camera, just we will change, instead of using photo library, to camera. Now remember, whenever you're dealing with a photo library camera, you've got to get permission for the user. So here in our info.plist, we're going to add another item. We're going to scroll down to our privacy, and first let's do this for the photo library. So for photo library usage, we need YoPix. Great. And let's go ahead and do this also for, let's go under privacy here. We are now looking for the camera. So say we need YoCamera. Great. All right, that's looking good. Next thing that we need to do is, so let's say the user taps on choose a photo. They pick one. We need to have the function that's going to handle that. So we'll take our picker controller here, and we want to implement the function did finish picking media with info. So this is what gets called when someone has successfully chosen one. So it has this dictionary info where we can pull out the image that we need. So we're going to say something like if let image be equal to our info dictionary, and then we need to pass the key of UI image picker controller. In fact, as you can see, it's of type .info key. So if we go ahead and do a dot here, it should help us out. There we go. And we can just pick out the original image here. We should specify that this should come through as a UI image. And if that all works, we now have this image that we can work with. It's completely unwrapped, and this is where we're going to be doing all of our work. One thing that we can for sure do is we can just say image view.image is going to be equal to this image that we just pulled out here. But then the next thing that we're going to have to do is run the processing. So let's go ahead and just make a function now that's we'll call maybe process image. Okay, and this is going to pass in an image object of type UI image. Okay, and this is where we're going to be doing all of our machine learning work. So we'll go ahead and just call process image, pass in that image that we just unwrapped, and that way we don't have too much going on in one function. Now whenever you use this did finish picking media, you got to make sure you dismiss everything. So we're going to take our picker and say dot dismiss on that. Let's go ahead and make that animated, and we don't need to do anything when that's all completed. But let's go ahead and just test and see if where our app is right now, that it's at least somewhat functional. We'll go ahead and hit the run button here, see what this looks like for us. All right, so the app popped up open here. Let's go ahead and try selecting a photo from the library. So looks like before I'd been working with a meat cleaver. What other kind of crazy things do we got here? Oh, we've got some eggs or whatever. We need a proper picture of a bagel. If you're on your simulator and you need the picture of something off from the internet, you can actually just hit the home button here and just open up Safari and go search for something. So in this case, you can see last time I was looking for a meat cleaver. That was actually a separate machine learning class I was working on. But let's go ahead and inside of here, we're going to be looking for, let's get a bagel. Okay, and let's just do some images. I've probably already used a lot of these images, so I'm going to scroll down for a while so that I can get something new. And let's, ooh, that'd be kind of tempting to use that one to see which way to go. Ooh, this one looks really good because, you know, this kind of has some of the elements that you might think would be a donut. I think this one would be really fun to try. So I'm going to go ahead and just tap and hold on this and say save image. And once I've done that, I've saved that to my photo library. So now inside my app, I can go ahead and pick that one there. And then look at that. You can see it filled up the space here. But this is kind of like the, you know, really important part here where we actually use the machine learning model that we created earlier to go ahead and say, you know, this thing is a donut or this thing is a bagel. So let's go ahead and jump back into Xcode. And I'm going to bring over the side menu here just to sort of emphasize we want to be working with this bakery classifier, and that's going to actually be the name on the class. If you go ahead and tap on this, you can see sort of the code that they have here. There's going to be a classifier input and an output, but in our code, we are going to be making use of the vision framework. And so up at the top here, we've got to make sure that we say import vision. Because that's going to help us work with the images in our model here. And now inside of process image, we just need to start ticking at this bit by bit. So the first thing that we need to do is create a vision core ML model. So we're going to say VN core ML, got to spell it correctly, core ML model. Do the opening parentheses on this, and we want to do it for a particular ML model. Now, which model? Our bakery one. So I'm going to say in here, bakery classifier, open and close parentheses, dot model. Okay, go ahead and run with that. So for this, we need to, this can potentially throw something, so we need to do a try on this. And I'm just going to say if let model be equal to, trying to go ahead and run out all this. And what this does, if it's successful, is we'll have an unwrapped VN core ML model. And this is what we need to sort of move forward to the next step of making a VN core ML request, which is basically asking your model, hey, I want to check out this image. Will you help me do that? So let's go ahead and make a request. We'll say let request be equal to VN core ML request. Go ahead and do the opening parentheses on this one. We want to be able to pass in a model and a completion handler, so make sure you have that one selected. So as for the model, we're going to use the model that we just unwrapped, and the completion handler, just go ahead and hit enter on that. We'll take in a request and we'll take in an error. Then we have some code that we can write for, you know, if someone has asked this request for some information, you know, what should we do with the info that we get back? So for right now, I would just like to know what it is that we got and take a look at it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if let results be equal to, and we're going to take our request object that we have, and I'm going to say dot results on that, and we'll go ahead and unwrap this, and I'm going to specify that this thing should be coming back as an array of VN classification observation. Okay, we'll go ahead and do our little curly brackets. If this all works out, I want to see everything that's inside of there, so I'm just going to do a quick for loop. I'm just going to say for result in results with an S. Let's just go ahead and print out some information about this. So the result object has a bunch of different things on it, but the main ones are going to be the identifier and the confidence. So I'm going to just print out a thing where I can say something like bagel colon 45%, right? So for that 45%, instead of saying 45, we are going to pass in result dot, and then we want to get to our confidence and multiply that by 100, because it's going to be like if it was 50%, it'd give us 0.5. So we want to beef that up a bit. And then instead of saying bagel here, this is where we'll go ahead and pass in our result dot identifier. Okay. So that's going to help us to process that. See, we've got this whole request thing, but we've got to go ahead and make use of this request. So still within the model area here, but after we've gone ahead and created this request this is where we actually have to go and use it. So next thing that we need to do is take our image and turn it into some actual data. So we're going to say image dot, and then we want to get this in a JPEG form. So we're going to say JPEG data, compression quality, just go ahead and do 1.0 there. Let's go ahead and unwrap this because this will be an optional. We'll say if let image data be equal to this. Do our little opening curly bracket there. So if we are able to successfully do this, image data is going to be of type data. You can see that right there. And we can use this with our request. So what we're going to do is we're going to say vn image request handler. And we want to go ahead and do the opening parentheses on this. You can see one of them takes data, which is really great. So we'll go ahead and pick that one there, and we'll pass in our image data. Awesome. It also has some options that you can work with. We're not going to be using anything here, so just go ahead and pass in an empty dictionary right there. But we need to put this into a constant, so I'm going to say let handler be equal to this. Then we can take our handler and we can say dot perform, and you guessed it, this request that we had. And so we're going to pass in our request, and this can potentially throw, so we need to make sure that we surround this with a try. And it's actually looking for an array of requests, so we got to make that just in curly brackets there so that it will be able to handle that information. Okay. And the great thing is, this is really all the code it takes to sort of use our model. Apple has made this very simple for us to use, but let's go ahead and hit run. This shouldn't be updating the labels yet, but it should at least be telling us down below in the console what it is seeing. So let's go ahead and open this up. I'm actually very excited to see if it thinks this is a bagel or a donut. I think it's going to choose bagel appropriately, but let's go ahead and test it out. We tap on it and... oh, I saw the info. Look at that. It's 99.169% sure that this thing is a bagel. Yes. How cool is that? That's great. And then it's, 0.83% sure that this thing is a donut. Awesome. So now that we know that we can appropriately get back information, let's go ahead and see if we can get this to show properly into our labels. So instead of going out and printing it here, we can still keep printing it if we'd like to into the console, but we should actually go about having this show up. Let's take our two labels, and they are our bagel and our donut label. So we'll start first, and you'll notice the thing is when we input here, like the name that we have for like bagels and donuts, this is the exact same name as whatever our photos folders were, right? Like when we said bagels and donuts. So make sure that you have the appropriate names there, but we'll just go ahead and just do a little if statement here, right? So as we're going through the results, we can probably get rid of, well, I'll just comment this out for now. We'll just do a little if statement. We're going to say if result dot identifier is equal to bagels, then we need to know that we are working with the bagel label. So we'll say bagel label dot text, and we'll go ahead and set this equal to something like this, right? We just want it to be like 100%, but obviously it's not 100. So we could just go ahead and in here say, okay, we're going to take our result, and on this we're going to do exactly like what we did here, result dot confidence, right? And multiply this thing by 100. But you notice it gets really specific here, and I don't want to see that we have some specific percentage or whatnot. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this number, and we want to eventually turn this into an int. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and round it. So I'm actually going to take this math outside because this is becoming a little bit too much work to be doing inside of a string, I think. So we'll go ahead and we're going to put this into a little variable that we're just going to call result rounded. Okay. We're going to say result rounded is equal to everything that we have here. All right, do all this math. In fact, just to make sure that we're working all with doubles here, I'm going to do the 0 on that. And then we're going to say dot rounded, and this is going to give us back a proper number. But even more than that, I'm going to take all of what we have here, and I'm going to put it inside of an int. So that all of this then, after it's been successfully rounded, we have the result that's been rounded, and it's really beautiful, all that excellent stuff. Okay, so now we can take this result rounded, go ahead and put it inside of there, and it's going to look amazing. It would appropriately round that to 99, and it's going to round that up to 1%. Okay, so with this, we've got to add our self dot inside of there, and then let's just copy and paste. We're going to do the same thing, but now we're going to do this for donuts. In fact, I'm just going to copy and paste, make sure I don't mess that up at all. And this time we're going to be working with the donut label. Okay, so this all looks really good. Let's go ahead and give this a run and see what it looks like. So I'm really excited to throw out some images of things that are not a bagel or a donut to see how it responds to those situations. But let's check out what we have now. So let's go ahead and pick a little guy that we have here. Let's plop that in. Look at that. It's 99% sure that's a bagel, 1% on a donut. Let's go see, for example, this egg. It's 100% sure that thing's a bagel. The meat cleaver. Oh, okay. A little bit of discrepancy there. So let's go ahead. Let's see if we can find a donut. Let's see if it can agree on a donut there. So let's go ahead and search for a donut. Okay, this time I think it would be pretty interesting if we grab like multiple donuts. That might be interesting to look at. And again, I've used probably a lot of those, so I'm going to just scroll through a bit. And oh, this one could be really good. Let's go ahead and pick this. And I'm going to long press save that. Come back into our app and say, yo, check out these. And look at that. It's pretty sure that it's donuts. So it's quite impressive how accurate this is. I mean, not 100% perfect, but just with those little bit of pictures that we threw it can basically determine what is a bagel, what is a donut. I'm just too curious to know what would happen if we threw the picture of that little dog. Let's go ahead and just search for a bagel again. And images. This will kind of be the fun part of this lecture here. Okay, where's our little dog friend? Oh, he was so cute. There he is. Beagle Bagel. Okay, we'll go ahead, save that image, come back to our app. I think it's going to get the bagel. We'll see, though. Here he comes. Oh, look at that. It's 92% sure it's a bagel. This one really kind of threw it off. It's like, well, I'm not exactly sure. But look at that, it got it. So, very cool way to use machine learning for a very practical example. I think there's going to be a lot of situations in maybe some businesses where, you know, there's some sort of process where humans would have to identify it's either one of 3 things, one of 2 things, one of 8 things, whatever that is. This machine learning is just amazing, I think, to help automate a lot of things. Obviously not 100% perfect, but can get you really close on a lot of different things. So hopefully enjoyed learning about the image side of things using vision and all that stuff. Next, we're going to be diving into working with the text side of things. That will be a fun one. I'll see you in the next one.